Blockbuster had 6,000 stores. Netflix had none. Guess who survived? In 2000, Blockbuster was the undisputed king of home entertainment. 1 million customers per day walked through their doors. Late fees alone generated $800 million annually. They were so dominant, so untouchable, that when a struggling startup offered to sell itself for $50 million, Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. That startup was Netflix. And this isn't a story of bad luck. This is suicide by arrogance. Welcome to the Autopsy. This is Blockbuster. To understand the death, you have to see the empire at its peak. Blockbuster Entertainment, founded 1985. David Cook, a computer programmer, saw that video stores were chaotic mom-and-pop operations. He built an inventory system. He standardized the experience. He sold the company in 1994 for $8.4 billion to Viacom. By 2000, Blockbuster was a cultural institution. Friday night meant Blockbuster night. The blue and yellow ticket stub logo was as recognizable as McDonald's. Stores carried 6,000 titles. The new release wall was prime real estate. Studios relied on Blockbuster's purchasing power. The business model was simple and brutal. You want a movie? You drive to us. You pay $4. You have 2 days. You return it late? We charge you again. And again. Late fees were 16% of revenue. Pure profit, zero cost. John Antioco, CEO from 1997, was actually competent. He saw the internet coming. He invested in Blockbuster.com. He tested subscription models. He even considered buying Netflix in 2000, not for $50 million, but for $50 million, plus absorbing their $20 million debt. Roughly $70 million total. The deal died. Antioco couldn't convince Viacom that mail-order DVDs were a threat. Netflix was losing money. Blockbuster was printing it. Why buy a hole when you're sitting on a gold mine? The body looked immortal. The disease was already inside. The belief that convenience didn't matter, that customers loved the ritual, that late fees were a feature, not a bug. They were wrong about all three. Let's dissect the pathology. Blockbuster didn't fail because of Netflix. Blockbuster failed because of Blockbuster. First, the late fee addiction. In 2000, Blockbuster collected $800 million in late fees. That's $2.2 million per day of pure margin. Customers hated it. Hated it. Netflix's entire pitch was, no late fees, ever. Blockbuster couldn't quit the drug. When they finally eliminated late fees in 2005, under pressure, it was too little, too late, and poorly communicated. Customers had already tried Netflix. Second, the real estate anchor. Blockbuster had 6,000 stores. Each one cost rent, utilities, staff, inventory. Netflix had warehouses, no retail footprint, no smiling teenagers behind counters. When DVD prices dropped and streaming became viable, Netflix pivoted instantly. Blockbuster had 6,000 leases and 80,000 employees they couldn't fire fast enough. Third, the culture of good enough. Blockbuster employees weren't trained for technology. They were trained for transactions. Upsell the popcorn, push the new release. The Netflix recommendation algorithm, personalized, data-driven, constantly learning, destroyed Blockbuster's staff picks wall. The blue-shirt teenager who liked action movies couldn't compete with code that knew you better than you knew yourself. Fourth, the Netflix meeting that wasn't. In 2000, Reed Hastings, Netflix CEO, flew to Dallas. He proposed that Netflix run Blockbuster's online brand. Blockbuster would promote Netflix in stores. Netflix would handle the mail. Revenue share. Partnership. Blockbuster laughed. Literally. According to multiple accounts, the executives couldn't believe Hastings had the audacity. They were a $6 billion company. He was a $5 million company losing money. They showed him the door. The disease was contempt. Contempt for the customer who complained about late fees. Contempt for the startup with no stores. Contempt for the idea that convenience could ever beat the Friday night experience. They didn't see that convenience was the experience. The bleeding started slow, then catastrophic. 2002, Netflix goes public. IPO raises $82 million. Blockbuster barely notices. 2003, Netflix hits 1 million subscribers. Blockbuster launches Blockbuster Online. 2 years late, poorly marketed, still tied to store returns. 2005. Blockbuster eliminates late fees, calls it, "No more late fees." The fine print says you still pay after a week. 40 states sue for false advertising. Settlement, $630,000. The brand takes another hit. 2007. Netflix introduces streaming. Watch instantly. 1,000 titles. The selection was terrible. B-movies, documentaries, old TV shows. But the concept was revolutionary. No disc, no mail, no wait. Blockbuster responds by buying MovieLink, a struggling streaming service, for $6.6 million. They had the technology. They had the content relationships. They had the brand recognition. They buried it. MovieLink stayed a separate, confusing product. No integration with Blockbuster Online, no marketing. The executives were still fighting over whether to cannibalize the DVD rental business. While they argued, Netflix streamed. 2010. Blockbuster files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. $1 billion in debt. 3,000 stores closed. Carl Icahn, the activist investor, had pushed out John Antioco in 2007, partly for spending too much on digital initiatives. The new CEO, Jim Keyes, doubled down on retail. "We bring you entertainment," he said, expanding into merchandise, games, even Blockbuster-themed parties. The stores became desperate, displays of candy and popcorn where movies used to be, staff begging customers to buy rewards memberships. The blue and yellow logo faded. 2011. Dish Network buys Blockbuster's corpse for $320 million, mostly for the brand and streaming rights. They try a Blockbuster movie pass. It fails. 2013. Dish announces the final closure of 300 remaining stores. The last Blockbuster rental, This Is the End, appropriately, occurs November 9, 2013 in Hawaii. The autopsy was public. The employees knew, the customers knew. Only the executives in Dallas didn't. The Y incision, the precise cut that reveals cause of death, points to July 2000, the meeting with Netflix, not because they should have paid $50 million, because they should have paid attention. Reed Hastings didn't pitch a sale, he pitched a warning. He was saying, "The model is changing, physical retail is a constraint, let us handle the constraint while you handle the content." Blockbuster heard, "A loser wants our money." The autopsy proves the subject was dead the moment they laughed, not because Netflix was inevitable, but because Blockbuster proved they couldn't imagine a different future. They were so good at their current business, so optimized for late fees and Friday night traffic, that they optimized themselves into extinction. The incision reveals the true killer: success. Blockbuster was too successful to change. The $800 million in late fees was a poison pill. The 6,000 stores were concrete anchors. The brand was a prison. Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster. Blockbuster died of being Blockbuster. The final irony: one store remains. Bend, Oregon. A tourist attraction. People fly there to rent DVDs, ironically. The blue and yellow ticket stub, preserved like a mosquito in amber, a reminder that dominance is temporary and laughter is expensive. The lesson of Blockbuster is brutal in its simplicity. Your current revenue stream is your biggest risk. The money that feeds you today will starve you tomorrow if you can't imagine eating differently. Blockbuster saw Netflix as a competitor to fight. They should have seen it as a customer preference to study. The late fees weren't profit. They were a countdown timer. Every annoyed customer was a future Netflix subscriber. In business, optimize for the customer, not the quarter. Because the quarter ends, the customer remembers. This was the profit autopsy. Next case, Enron.